recognize Mr. Goldman for 5 minutes questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to go back to Mr. Kilmar Abrego Garcia's case, Madam Secretary. But my first question for you is a pretty simple one. It's basic civics. Which branch of government does the Constitution give the authority to interpret what the law is? The judiciary or the executive branch?
Hello, Americans. It's time we talk about the absolute circus that took place during a recent hearing where Dan Goldman, yes, the same guy who thinks lecturing patriots counts as lawmaking, decided to go after Kristi Noem like she was the one on trial. And over what? A known MS-13 gang member, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Folks, you're not going to believe the level of absurdity we witnessed. Before we dive in, hit that like button, smash that subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a truth bomb from the Republican Forum.
Sir, going forward, the interpretation of the law, you make the laws in this body. The judicial branch makes sure that they have integrity and they're applied properly to individuals.
So I'm just going to take that as the judiciary branch. Now, let's focus for a second on what the judiciary branch has said about this case. We know the Supreme Court has said 9-0 that notwithstanding your statements under oath here today, that Mr. Kilmar Abrego Garcia was afforded due process, he was in fact not afforded due process, because then if he were, you would have seen the withholding order that did not permit him to be deported to El Salvador. Now you allege, and I guess the Attorney General alleges, that he's a member of MS-13. That may very well be the case. And if he is, now that that is a foreign terrorist organization, certainly the immigration laws would allow him, and in fact require him, to be deported. I certainly would support that. But the problem that we have here is what you allege, what Ms. Green alleges, what the Attorney General alleges, is not the judiciary. You don't get to decide whether or not he is an MS-13 member. And you don't have to take my word for it, because Judge Wilkinson, a Fourth Circuit judge, very conservative, addressed this argument. He said, the government asserts that Abrego Garcia is a terrorist and a member of MS-13. Perhaps, but perhaps not. Regardless, he is still entitled to due process. If the government is confident in its position, it should be assured that position will prevail in proceedings to terminate the withholding of removal order. Will you commit right now to give Mr. Abrego Garcia that process where you can prove your allegation that he is a member of MS-13?
Congressman, that judge that you just quoted did not say he was not a member of MS-13. Who did say that he was a member of MS-13 was law enforcement officers that encountered this individual.
Yeah, he knows that. This is a Fourth Circuit judge. He knows all of what the evidence is, and he's saying if that evidence...
So
you're not going to commit to follow this order. You won't commit to follow this court order.
By the way, he identified
Madam Secretary,
himself.
I reclaim my time. Stop filibustering.
He was surrounded by gang members of MS-13.
Will you give Mr. Abrego Garcia the due process that the Supreme Court and Judge Wilkinson has required you to give him?
Abrego Garcia is an El Salvador resident who is in his home country. If he were to come back to this country, he would be immediately removed again.
How do you know?
He has received and been treated appropriately,
sir,
and he is not.
How can you say he's been treated appropriately if the Supreme Court has ruled 9-0? 9-0 that he hasn't been treated appropriately? Why is your opinion better and have more authority than the Supreme Court?
Investigators, 2 judges, an immigration court that all said he was MS-13 and was removed from this country.
But you understand, that is you saying that. That is you saying that.
That is them saying that.
No.
Investigators and law
that is
enforcement
you
officers
making that
in the case
determination.
They built against him. If you don't
the
trust our law
court
enforcement
has
officers
considered all that.
and
The judge has considered all that, Madam Secretary.
And
if you would be quiet, because I'm reclaiming my time, you are not following this court order. But let's focus on the court order, because this opinion also says that to facilitate, which the Supreme Court is requiring, is an active verb. It requires that steps be taken. What steps have you taken to return Mr. Abrego Garcia to allow him to get due process?
Abrego Garcia is in his home country.
What
If he were to come
steps
back,
have
your
you
advocacy-
taken?
If your continued advocacy for him were to...
I'm not advocating for him.
Yes, you
I'm
are.
advocating for a
Absolutely.
court order, Madam
Gone to the
Secretary.
mat for this
The
man
court
who
order
has terrorized
says
people
that
in
you
traffic,
must take
human
steps
beings.
to follow the court order. You are here under oath. What steps have you taken to return Mr. Abrego Garcia pursuant to this court order?
It's got to be extremely discouraging to be one of your constituents. To see you fight for a terrorist like this and not fight for them is extremely alarming to me.
I'm fighting for due process, and that's under the Constitution,
Gentleman's
and you
time
should
has
fight too for due
expired.
process.
Dan Goldman sits there with all the smugness of a law school professor on tenure, throwing around words like due process and acting like he's the last guardian of the Constitution. But what was he really doing? Defending a foreign gang member who was already deported. Now, let me ask you this. When did fighting for known criminals become part of the oath of office? Kilmar Abrego Garcia, let's not sugarcoat this, is not some innocent guy caught up in the system. Multiple law enforcement officers, immigration judges, and investigators have linked him to MS-13, a gang known for terrorizing communities, murder, trafficking, and drug crimes. But that's not enough for Goldman. Nope. He wants to throw out years of intelligence, testimony, and enforcement just because the Supreme Court had an opinion on procedural delays. And then there's Kristi Noem, standing firm, doing her job, backing our law enforcement and protecting the American people. But what does she get for it? A condescending lecture and an attack from the left who'd rather see our immigration laws watered down and our communities in danger just so they can score political points. Let's talk about that so-called due process Goldman kept shouting about. What about the due process for American citizens? What about our families, our safety, our rule of law? See, this is the issue with the left. They love to bend the Constitution to defend criminals, terrorists, and illegal aliens. But when it comes to protecting patriotic Americans, law enforcement, or border agents, they're nowhere to be found. Goldman claimed Noem wasn't following the court order. But here's the kicker. The man is no longer in the country. He's back in El Salvador, where he belongs. What exactly does Goldman want? Should we fly this guy back into the U.S. just to give him a second chance in court? All at taxpayer expense? This isn't about due process. This is about Democrats trying to undermine border security and demonize conservatives who are doing everything they can to protect this nation. And the worst part? When Noem tried to explain that law enforcement confirmed Garcia's gang affiliations, Goldman cut her off like a CNN host with a mute button. If you would be quiet, he snapped. Disrespectful, arrogant, and completely uncalled for. That's how the left operates. They don't want to debate. They want domination. And if you push back, they'll smear you, shame you, and silence you. Let me be crystal clear. We stand with Kristi Noem, we stand with law, and order we stand with every American who believes that our laws should protect citizens, not criminals. Dan Goldman and the radical left may want to tear down borders, but we patriots know better. We know what's at stake, and we're not backing down. So if you're sick and tired of watching Democrats twist the Constitution to fit their agenda, if you're ready to stand for truth, justice, and America, then this is your call. Like this video, share it with everyone you know, and subscribe to the Republican Forum for more unfiltered truth. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.